and Drug Administration. You know why? Because food, like drugs, you put in your body, and then it reacts differently. Making food and drugs cousins, not enemies. We don't really like to look at it that way, but it's true. And sugar is a problem in this country, for sure. Absolutely. I think a lot of times we're out here blaming red meat for what a 64-ounce soda did. Right? I think a lot of times we're out there doing that. So I would agree, and sugar is addictive, for sure. Absolutely. It's what I've said about people. If your children are overeating like that, I did. It's not for sure an indication that something's going on with your kid, but it absolutely can be. It cannot just, it could be, it's just not kids being kids. It could be, I don't know. I want to numb this pain. And so the Twinkie will do it because I don't know about whiskey yet. I don't know about cocaine yet. I don't know about heroin and fentanyl yet. But I do know that cartoon character selling me that sugar. Can I have that, please? We're training drug addicts. Not everybody, but in certain situations, and I'm going to guess a lot of them, that's what you're saying. It's not everybody overeats just because stuff tastes good. We're eating through pain. Plenty of adults do that. I've told you I'm addicted to food for sure. If I get great news at work, like we just put in a great ratings period. The whole station, I mean, the station just slayed. Thank you, by the way. And I did very well. What do you think we did? We went out for dinner to celebrate. If something bad, if I lose my job today, the first thing I'm going to want to do is eat something to kind of just, I'll get through the day. And all right, I deserve sugar now. My life's going to suck for a while. Sugar. So that's for sure addictive. It's tough when you start talking about things you need to have because food is a necessity. Now, double cheeseburgers are not. I remember saying this during COVID. Like people kept saying, oh, you know, essential, essential, essential. And I said, well, food's essential, but chalupas aren't. You know what I mean? Like that's not essential. And I remember saying, it's like, guys, those places aren't open because food's essential. They're open because of how many people work there and how many people rely on it to eat every day. Like that's not, yeah, food's essential. It's like, yeah, yes it is. But, you know, Doritos Los Tacos aren't, which they're delicious. Absolutely, right? Another one people talk about a lot, and this is very normalized. Coffee. I'm addicted. I don't know how many cups this morning I've had. I have very nice listeners who have sent me more than a couple of coffee mugs here. And that's a 20-ounce mug there that I'm using right now. Thank you again, Ted. I'm pretty sure I filled that thing 6 times this morning, maybe. I once upon a time switched to tea. I was like, I need to get off this coffee. And then, I don't know what happened. I had 1 cup of coffee and I'm right back in it. They'll tell you coffee doesn't make you energized, doesn't keep you awake, doesn't do any of that stuff. That really what you're addicted to is just, you know, the caffeine in your body and the taste of it. That's for sure true. Even when I don't work, when I wake up Saturday morning, and I'll wake up about 4:45 Saturday morning. And I already make sure that coffee's made before I wake up. And the first thing I do, right in the kitchen. And I think, give it to me, man. That lifeblood. That is addictive for sure. Absolutely. Why do you think all those coffee shops pop up on every street corner in America? It's because they're selling you drugs, baby. and they know you're coming. So yeah, coffee's pretty normalized because nobody even looks at you as crazy for it. And by the way, if you tell anybody, by the way, that, hey man, that addiction that you have to that coffee and spending that money on it every day is one of the reasons why you're broke. Shut up, boomer! I need my life! Shut up, boomer! Everybody freaks out and gets really defensive. You know, like an addict. They get really defensive over their behavior. The phone's a good one. Going back to the phone. A lot of people saying technology, the phone. I believe I have put my finger on where society went dead wrong. Now, I always think that. So maybe I don't have it. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Internet on the go is where we screwed up. Access to the internet, I think, could have been great. Modems and dial-up take you 20 minutes to get on. I have been sitting in this chair too long. I need to get away from this thing. But see, we put internet in your hand. So now you can look at it in the store in line, in bed when you should be talking to your partner, in the meeting when you should be listening to your boss instead of making bets. Internet on the go, I think we're going to look back at that as society and be like, well, it was convenient and it was fun, but man, did it do a lot of negative things out there. It disrupted too many industries. It brought too many things crumbling down to its knees. I think we are going to look back at that as a where the water broke moment. I could be wrong. I'm hearing a lot about gambling. Tammy says this. She texted that in 330-450-7625. Gambling's pretty normalized. Well, I don't think it's the most normalized addiction in society today, Tammy, just because we've just now made it legal in most places. But I think it's on the rise. I don't think it's the number one most normalized addiction in society yet. I do think it's on the rise. As more and more people are gambling because of the apps, we're hearing that the Browns want to put a dome up, and like people are already saying, tap into the marijuana, tap into the gambling. That's where the money's going to come from. And so we'll see if that ends up what's happening there. But people are making those suggestions already. I read an article, I think by Jason Lloyd at The Athletic on that yesterday. And he's probably not wrong. There's probably decent areas to go and try to get that money to do that, right? And so I think those things are becoming more and more normalized as more TV spots, more radio spots. And, you know, full disclosure, I advertise one of those places. And I use that place. Absolutely, I do. But I don't think it's the most normalized addiction right now, but it is skyrocketing up the charts. I would agree with that. I have a suggestion here. I don't think it's the most normalized addiction, but I do think it's a problem. It's celebrity worship. Has become a little bit of a problem in this country. I don't think it's the number one, but I do think it's an issue. And we've always kind of had it. Elvis was king, and right, and the Beatles, and we were flipping cars over for them, and like it's kind of always been a thing. It's gotten worse over time. And again, I think technology helps make things better and worse depending on the thing you're talking about. But hero worship, you know, a lot of people are going to the political thing, the political ideology. I don't think people are addicted to being a Republican or a Democrat. I do think people get addicted to arguing with people and owning a side of the argument and then thinking that they won a side. People are addicted to arguing. I have in my life been addicted to that. For sure. I'm better at it now than I've ever been. But my girlfriend will tell you, he ain't perfect at it. Like if he sees an opening like, oh, wait, can we have a debate about this? All right, sit down, here it comes. Like, the job kind of conditions you for that, right? This position kind of does condition you to you better be able to defend every opinion you have at a moment's notice. You're a race car in the red. It's just it comes with the territory. And I do a bad job of shutting that switch off when I leave the studio sometimes. I've done a much better job of not being online, doing it all day with people I don't know and this and that. It's probably still something that comes up in my friendships and relationships for sure. Absolutely. I can be a little combative. And especially if I feel like, what did you just say? Then I'm probably going to come to that. Hate, Kevin is telling me, that hate has become a new addiction in this country. That people are just addicted. I'll call it rage. Hate is a good option. I think that's definitely becoming more prevalent as we go on. So we talked about food, we talked about the phone, we talked sugar, we talked social media, we talked coffee, we talked shopping, we talked gambling, we talked all of these things. And nobody has mentioned something yet. And I think that's what makes it the most normalized addiction in society today. And we'll fill you in on what it is next.
Live from the Hall of Fame City, and just as bad as NFL officiating, the Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. Rock 106.9, Rock the Bank with you at 9. Get that $1,000 keyword passed out. We've been talking about normalized addictions in this country, and we went through a bunch, right? We went through cigarettes and alcohol, gambling, a lot of vices are on that list, and so much so that this came in off the text line. I wish I could attribute this to somebody's name, but they just didn't give it to me when they texted in. But they said, so everything we enjoy is an addiction? Capital letters, no! Well, first, what I would say is, I don't believe you're going to become addicted to things you didn't like. Right? It's why I've said I don't think we can just excuse drug addicts away from what they're doing because they're addicted, because my thing is you had to try the thing, right? And you kind of knew addiction was out there. So, like, if you're blaming that for what you did, it's like, wow, dude, like anybody in today's society who's blaming drugs for what they did, it's like, we've known for a while now that drugs bring some bad things. So, yes, I believe what you enjoy can lead to being addicted to it, because you're probably not going to be addicted to something you didn't like, So yes. Also, just because you're addicted to it does not mean it is destroying your life. We have blurred the lines of this word. We do think of addiction as negative, and a lot of them are. I'm not sure being addicted to coffee as I am is negative. It's probably not the best thing for my body, although there's been plenty of studies that debate caffeine, good or bad, and there's been a lot of that. I think some of the sugar I may put in coffee occasionally, the flavor, creamer is probably not great for me, but I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world. Just because you're addicted to it does not necessarily mean it's destructive, although plenty of addictions are. We didn't even talk about pornography. Do I think it's the most normalized addiction in society? And that was the initial question. No, but it is, much like gambling, it is skyrocketing up the list. We have now moms picking up their kids in school lines with their OnlyFans information plastered over their rear windows. That would have never happened when I was growing up. As a matter of fact, a woman that lived on my street when I was growing up had been in Hustler magazine and then did an adult film. She was seen as a pariah in my neighborhood. Not by my family, the neighborhood. Now, that's probably too much judgment. Fair? But we've gone from that to work on that sex toy, man, make that cash. So porn is skyrocketing, for sure. People's porn viewing, they talk about more openly than ever before. Now, you could view that as addiction taking over or people coming out of the closet of being embarrassed, right? This will come down to perspective. Like, how do you want to be seen, right? I say that a lot. It may sound like a cop-out to some people, but it's a reality, right? So, yes, I think what you enjoy, that's what you have to police and make sure it doesn't get out of hand. There are people who become addicted to working out. I'm not sure that's a negative, but you can become addicted to the activity there. I think more people need that addiction, myself maybe included. So apparently this person's now sending me the definition. Something for which abstinence has negative physical consequences. Take coffee away from people. Take cigarettes away from people and watch the negative effects. Take alcohol away from people. Take porn away from somebody who's addicted. You will see the reaction. This is the thing. We don't see these reactions because we don't limit these things from people. Your friend never comes to you and taps you on the shoulder to talk to you about your problematic coffee drinking. But if Billy drinks too much whiskey, we might have to sit Bill down, man. Might be time to tell Bill he's an alcoholic. That third DUI, it's probably time to tell Bill you need to get it together, my man. Like, that's kind of what happens. We don't do that with caffeine. And we don't do it with sugar. As a matter of fact, we are so bad about doing it with sugar, we have now moved into fat acceptance. Where now you're intolerant if you tell people, like, man, I gotta be honest with you, I don't think this is gonna be great for you. If you take sugar away from an addict, you will see those physical consequences. If you take caffeine away from those people, you will. By the way, you ever have anybody tell you about this with caffeine? Man, I gotta tell you, if I don't have my coffee, I get a headache. Yeah, that's your body saying, give me my goddamn drugs, man. That's what that is. So yes, anything you put into your body that makes it react differently, you can become addicted to. Somebody's talking to me about video games. And I remember when I watched Intervention 20 years ago, longer. They did an intervention for a kid addicted to video games. I was like, we're getting a little carried away with the addiction thing here, right? But then I moved to Oregon and I met a kid who flunked out of West Virginia University because he was playing too much. I think it was World of Warcraft. Was he addicted to it, or did he just not have the dedication to turn the game off and go to class? Well, that's where we get into a little bit of a debate, doesn't it? But a buddy of mine just texted me, Josh texted me, said, I think video games are addictive. It's like gambling, Dan, as you're talking about that, they borrowed a lot of their playbook from video games. He's right, they did. They absolutely did. And so I think that can be true. So yes, I think if the things we're talking about, if I took them away from people, you would see a negative reaction. Talk to somebody about their porn viewing. You know what they're going to tell you? Well, I mean, I watch it, but I could stop if I wanted to. I don't need it. I just kind of like it. Is that right? Anytime you're telling yourself, I need to do a better job at not consuming this, watching this, drinking that, eating this, and you don't follow through with it, guess what, baby? Welcome to the addiction. Nobody escapes the addict gene. Nobody escapes the addict gene. No one. It has come for all of us. We still, by the way, have not talked about a major addiction in this country that's completely normalized, and nobody's mentioned it, which of course makes it the number one thing on the list. And I know I said I would before, but I'll get you your $1,000 Rock the Bank keyword, and then I'll tell you what the number one addiction in this country is right now.
Give Stansberry a piece of your mind. Use the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app and let him know just how wrong he is. It's just wrong. The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
330-450-7625 to send a text. And plenty of you have done that. Thank you, by the way. We were talking about normalized addictions in the country, and Tammy asked me this question. I'm sorry, it was Paige, actually, who asked me this question. I apologize on that. But she said, is sleep an addiction? I said, well, you need it. Like, without it, you die. Now, people can get a little too lazy, and they can be obsessed with sleeping a little too often. Depression's going to lead is going to lead the race in that. I can tell you, as a person who deals with some depression from time to time, I normally know when it's happening. When I don't feel like taking a shower, and when I find myself wanting to sleep a little too much, not wanting to get out of the bed and things like that, I know the monster's back in town. And it's time to start focusing on some stuff. But I don't think sleep, things you need is tough to be an addiction. That's where food's going to be the tough one. Because you need it to stay alive, but you don't need chalupas, right? And so like, we kind of like, I need to eat. But it's like, yeah, we need to eat, but we probably don't need to eat everything we're eating. Now, all things in moderation, including moderation, right? Like, I love that phrase. But we've been talking about this. A lot of people don't like listing certain things as addictions because it makes them feel called out, Michelle being among them. But her point was, everything we enjoy is an addiction. It's like, well, you're not going to become addicted to things you hate. Normally, that's how it works. That's what addiction does. It takes something you loved once upon a time, and it makes you hate it because you're addicted to it. That's kind of how it works, right? A lot of people mentioned porn. I think it's on the rise. I don't think it's the number one thing today, although, porn stars, you didn't used to just like scream about who they were. Now people will give you their OnlyFans. Not everybody, but enough people on OnlyFans will give you the information shamelessly. So it's on the rise, right? That's what acceptance does, by the way. Acceptance will normalize behaviors, whether they be negative or positive, but that's what it will do. And so we are normalizing pornography way more. I mean, I realize not everybody reads everything I read, but I can't even begin to tell you the amount of articles I've read in the 10 years I've hosted this show for you. Thank you, by the way. About the large number of young men in this country who are not performing sexually in the bedroom because when they get a woman in there, it doesn't look like what they've seen at Brazzers, and they don't know what to do. Not only do they not know what to do, they're not as turned on because it doesn't look like, doesn't sound like, doesn't feel like. Plus, why am I not waiting for my friend to finish before I jump in, right? And like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's happening. Plenty of studies have been published on that. It is a problem. Now, you start talking about problems, then people want solutions and they want restrictions and this and that. And that's where it gets really convoluted because, like, yeah, man, you like it and you can become addicted to it. It does not necessarily mean you shouldn't have access to it. What I want more is people to use more self-restriction. We're not going to, which is why a lot of people feel like you need to legislate. We'll see who ends up winning out there. I found it interesting. A lot of people said the phone. I agree. I think internet on the go is where we're going to look back as a society and go, this is where it went wrong. It's not necessarily the internet. Internet anywhere you're standing, I think, may prove to be where we look back and go, yeah, that was really it. Like, the online shopping was cool and being able to see things from around the world and showing my kid the Grand Canyon in the winter and when we're not able to go and all that. Okay. Social media and the internet on the go, I'll combine those things together. I think we are really going to look back and go, dude, how dumb is the human race? Buddy, once upon a time, these idiots thought it was a good idea to say whatever it is they thought every second of every day. Dude, they made it possible to drunk message the world, baby. The world. And they're shocked it turned everything into a bloody mess. You know, I really do think we're going to be looking back as that was not the best thing we've ever done. I could be wrong. Nobody has mentioned one of these yet. Nobody. And I think there's an addiction that's so normalized now. And we used to just look at these people like they were the scum of the earth. The outcasts, the future school shooters. Anybody want to take a guess? It's marijuana, baby. That is the most normalized addiction we have in society right now, if you ask me. Phones would probably be it. But phones aren't, you need your phone, right? They're damn near a necessity now, right? That's how they want you paying for things, is using Apple Pay or one of these other systems, right? So we've moved into that territory. We need a little self-restriction, and there is addiction issues there. We got problems with the socials, and so I said about social media, man, I knew it was going to be bad because it's the radio business model applied to a more evil product. That's when I knew. I was like, this is bad. Like, this is bad. We absolutely manipulate you. For sure we do. But it's so you'll listen to Papa Roach more times, not like Cities on Fire. Right, and so like it's a little bit. That's what makes us opportunistic and social media evil, right? There's a little bit of a difference there, right? Marijuana is the #1 addiction in the country right now. People will openly smoke weed right in front of you. People will openly talk about the fact that they smoke weed, where you used to kind of have to hide in the corner. Now I know all the pushback I'm going to get is about how marijuana is not addictive. Okay, so I'm going to meet you halfway. But you're not going to be able to push back on my argument. Just so you know. Doesn't matter how many times I'm right. I'll still, you know what I mean? People will still argue. But marijuana may not prove to be addictive for you. But I am absolutely 100% addicted to marijuana. And I don't feel as if I have to live in denial about that anymore. I can be honest about it. Not necessarily with you, but with me. People will tell you it can't be addictive. You tell me the differences between caffeine and THC and why you think caffeine's addictive and THC is not. You ingest the thing, it courses through your blood, goes through the body, and then makes you feel completely different. I'm sorry? How is one of those things addictive and the other one isn't? Is it because you don't want to admit that you're addicted to marijuana? I think that might be it. Last time I moved, I ended up moving some furniture around in a bedroom I never really used all that much. I found like 4 empty baggies in that room. And I just started to laugh. I was like, hey, look at this activity I got in my life that's not addicting. You ever make deals with yourself about marijuana? I'm going to see how long I can go. I'm not going to call the guy. And then you roll that last joint of weed you got and think to yourself, nah, calling right now. Who's addicted, baby? If you're making deals with yourself and you cannot see them through, welcome to addiction. Nobody escapes this. No one escapes this. We all have the thing. Your thing may not be as destructive as this thing. And that's why I think you should be able to have this thing, maybe not that thing. Fair. I'm not saying they're on par with one another. But to sit here and tell people that marijuana is not addictive is the number one most dangerous lie we have perpetrated on the youth of this goddamn country forever. Now, we were too far reefer madness then. You'll never be anything if you smoke it, man. That was reefer madness and crazy. But telling young people in America that there is no negative effects coming down the road of smoking marijuana and it's not addictive like these other drugs is disingenuous and just flat out wrong. I don't drink a whole lot at home. If you made it impossible for me to smoke weed in my house, meaning, dude, my guy just stopped delivering, I can't get it, I can't find it anywhere. You know how I always tell you I've had that same case of Coors Light in my fridge since I moved in September, and I do. How much you want to bet that if you took marijuana off the table, I end up drinking all those beers much sooner than I would now? Because I don't have the thing. So give me the other thing. That is addiction. I know people don't want to hear it, man, because we want to look at addicts as the people with the needles hanging out of their arms dying in the street. And you don't want to view yourself as that person. But I have a news flash for you. You're not that person. But just because you're not a heroin addict does not mean you are not addicted to something else.
He was the most hated man in America. And then Kanye came along. Ah, thanks a lot, Kanye. The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9. We've been talking about addiction on the program. I asked the question via socials yesterday, what's the most normalized addiction in the country? And a lot of people said social media. And I think that's a pretty good answer. It might be the number one answer. I'm going with marijuana myself. And I know there are people who don't believe marijuana is addictive, and those people are idiots. You for sure have withdrawals from marijuana. I took this from the text line, 330-450-7625, and I should take it with a grain of salt because Logan is one of these people who gets mad at me every day and tells me, I'm never listening ever again, man! But his addiction is hanging on every last word I say. Thanks for that addiction, baby. I love it. Thank you. I might pick myself out something nice on Amazon today just because of you. But here's what he has to say. What happens to the body when you stop caffeine, Stansberry? You get shakes, heart irregularities, etc. What happens when you quit cigarettes, heroin, etc.? You should know this. What happens when you quit weed? You're bored. I'm not as intrigued by the video game thing. People quit weed cold turkey to obtain jobs and stay off of it. Don't mix addiction with weak character, dumbass. Okay, name caller, dumbass. So you want to lean on people who quit marijuana to keep their jobs. What about the people who lose their jobs because they can't quit it? Oh, wait. Now what do we do? Stalemate. Now what do we do? Now, I have said all morning, I'm addicted to marijuana. You know why? Because I am. Why do I make deals with myself and I'm like, I'm going to be done, and then I don't? Is it just simply weak character? Maybe a little. You know I'm never looking to let myself off the hook from my bad stuff. I love talking about what's wrong with me, baby. Like T.O., I love me some me. Like, right? And so I like talking about me, whether it's positive or negative. I'm all in. So that's on the list of the reasons why I end up calling the guy. But my irritability when I don't have it, you know, much like coming off caffeine, is an indicator of being addicted. Wow, man. Logan, you should watch Pulp Fiction again. Check out the big brain on bread. I mean, bro, like, you are lost in the weeds, Holmes. You're lost. By the way, do you know this? That people will tell you that marijuana leaves your body over like a month course time, right? Where Cocaine leaves the body in like 72 hours. And you know what that does? It makes the withdrawal system, the like feelings, stronger. So you notice them. And you would then attribute those feelings to the fact that you don't have the cocaine. Weed releases through the body at a slower rate, so it's not as drastic. You don't see it, but that why I'm screaming at this dude, I can't do it right now. Because you haven't smoked a joint? Explain to me how nicotine does this, THC doesn't. Oh, I know why, baby. You want to know why? Because corporate America sold me the nicotine, so it's bad. What's your answer going to be in 3 years when corporate America's selling you the weed versus the guy down the street? You gonna change your views then? When it's time to blame evil CEOs? Something tells me your dumb ass gonna be right here in my messages, telling me how little I know, selling my arguments back to me 5 years after I've said them. Hilarious. It happens to me all the time. It happens to me all the time. I'm now being called a beta. I'll tell you what, dude. If guys like you think I'm a beta, that's the biggest achievement of my life. Dude, just stop listening. It's okay. It's all right. But you can't. You need me. You need that anger. You need that rage you get from hearing me. Oh my God, I hate him so much. I hate him. You need it. You're addicted to me. Thanks for that. I absolutely love it. And if you don't think I'm willing to admit I have weakness in my life, addicted to pornography, addicted to marijuana, addicted to coffee, I was addicted to, by the way, I was addicted to cigarettes and I quit those 11 years ago. Just because you're addicted to something doesn't mean that you can't leave it behind. Oh my God, dude, it's like arguing with a goddamn wall already.
Back to the Stansberry Show. Rock 1069.
Welcome back to the program. Should remind you that Teresa has that second $1,000 keyword. Rock the bank with her at 10 a.m. Those keywords presented by Beavers Marine, beaversmarinestore.com. You and I have been talking about addiction for like the last, I don't know, about an hour or so. And apparently we're going to have to do this again tomorrow on the show at Touch because I was just sent this article. Maker of Tinder and Hinge are now being sued over addictive dating apps that put profits over love. And again, people believe you can become addicted to the technology. Somehow that doesn't enter your body and doesn't change it. Although, I mean, yes, what you consume does change you. But people really have a hard time admitting marijuana is addictive, and I don't understand. They'll agree that cigarettes, which you light on fire, smoke, inhale a substance that's unnatural for you, exhale it back out, your body reacts differently, you can become addicted. Marijuana you consume the exact same way, and somehow, miraculously, that one doesn't do it. Are you kidding me? Like, these arguments are ridiculous. And then you realize, once you realize that you're hearing them from people who believe the earth is flat, that maybe it might be time to go, okay, that's why they don't get it. So sugar you believe does it. You ingest it, changes you. You believe it does it. Food does it. Social media does it. All these things do it. Miraculously, the thing you like, though, nah. You don't think you're addicted to social media. You don't think so. Everybody else has got this thing, but you. Interesting. Just because addicted is a word that you associate with death does not mean that's the only thing on the list that proves you're addicted. Just because you haven't lost your job. Where do you think terms like, wait for it, functioning alcoholic came from? By being able to use the thing and still do your jobs. If we can have, do you believe functional alcoholic is a thing? Then how is functional marijuana addict not a thing? Of course it would be. I know you feel called out. That's okay. That's okay. And if you're uncomfortable with that, this may not be the program for you. Or maybe this wasn't just the segment for you, which is fine. Which is fine. I'm a little bit more willing to talk about what's wrong with me. as I got made fun of for talking about my relationship issues. He's on me about all of that and all of this stuff now. A couple of people are on me about this. Oh, you're such an expert, but you got your life a mess and this. Yes. My life being a mess and me seeing the negative effects everywhere is how I came to the goddamn opinions. Right? I find it hilarious. Everything else you put in your body makes you act differently. Oh yeah, you can become addicted to that. Marijuana, well, I like that one, so no. It's important that you hold accountable what you like too. And that's what I'm doing. Now, I will remind everybody that I have said many, many times in this conversation that marijuana may not be addictive for you, but it is 100% addictive for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I carry an immense amount of guilt over how much I still use that product. I will yell at myself in my brain every day, like, you get it together. You're smarter than this. Get it together. Tomorrow I'll get it together. Tomorrow. See, because addicts, that's what they do. They talk about the stopping. I can stop, I'll stop. They don't talk about the using. If you become irritable when you don't, so nicotine fits are real, marijuana fits are not. I need to get writers that damn funny. All right, you can rock the bank with Teresa. Grab that second keyword at 10 a.m. Those presented by Beavers Marine. Aside from that, I'm done for the day. Not back live again until tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Be good to one another. Admit that you're an addict. And meet me here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Friday's program on Rock 106.9. Hopefully you have a great afternoon, and hopefully I run into you somewhere around town.